Welcome back, and starting the first segment of Breakfast Show with the press review, and we are joined in the studio by Mr. Mohamed Sheta, media expert. Hello, sir, and welcome to our show.
A very beautiful good morning to you, and thank you for having me, and congratulations to the new layout of the studio.
Thank you, sir, and Happy New Year.
Yes, and Happy New Year, of course, to you too, and to all the team of Nile TV, and of course to your lovely viewers, of course.
Thank you, sir. And we are going to start with the first headline from Al-Masri Al-Yawm, where we read President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met on Tuesday with the representatives of major non-governmental organizations at the presidential headquarters in Al-Ittihadiyya Palace. Presidential spokesman Ala Youssef said the president welcomed the NGO representatives, stressing that he is keen to hold such meetings to get briefed on the efforts made by the various organizations. The meeting tackled efforts exerted by these organizations to benefit Egyptian society and ways to strengthen its support for the citizens. Mr. Mohamed Sheta, what's your comment on this meeting of the president with the NGOs or organizations?
Well, encouraging NGOs and the work of NGOs in Egypt is extremely important, because NGOs, as we've seen over the past couple of years, have been very active, especially in the sector of charity, for example, where they have been providing money and food and blankets for the people in need. Nevertheless, I think NGOs should also have a more productive and more educating role, for example, not only just giving food and money and blankets, but also teaching people how to develop themselves in order to be able to make money themselves and be productive, not just relying on getting money from the different NGOs. What I think is very important is that the NGOs sit together on one table and make something like an association or a federation, and have a database of all the people who are receiving money from those NGOs. Because, for example, one family could be getting money from 10 different NGOs for the same cause. For example, they get 10 blankets because there's no coordination between the NGOs themselves. And I think this is extremely important. And of course, they need to coordinate this also with the government, because the government, of course, is also providing lots of people in Egypt with food, for example, or supporting them with money, and also during the winter time with blankets. So I think it's very important to also coordinate it between there should be a coordination between the government and the NGOs in this aspect as well. What I think is lacking in the sector of the NGOs are NGOs who are, for example, active in the field of road safety, for example. I think this is extremely important. Last week, we had lots of discussions in the different media about the new fuel card, which is being distributed, which has been actually distributed to the people a couple of years ago, but has not been active. I think the NGO has a role in educating the people about this fuel card, for example, but also educating the government, because I think having a fuel card like this is not really very effective. We've seen the corruption which happened with the subsidizing a card a couple of months ago with the bread.
It's like a quarrel between the companies who's going to take the large number of these cards to benefit from.
I personally think those cards are completely useless, because actually I think the most effective way would be to have a general price for the fuel in all the different gas stations all over Egypt, and that if someone needs to be subsidized by the government, he should not get this subsidized in form of cheap fuel, but he should apply for this government or this government support, financial support, through his yearly tax statement. For example, if a microbus driver says, I need to have cheap fuel in order to be able to transport the people for a cheap fare, then he should, like it's done all over the world, at the end of the year he fills out his annual tax statement, and then because like this the government would first of all get to know what these people are really spending and who's really eligible for receiving this financial support or not. And I think this is extremely important in order to get rid of this parallel economy we have. And I hope the government really notices this point and starts doing all these changes to this fuel card thing, for example.
Okay, and moving to Al Ahram newspaper, where we read President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi issued a decree on Tuesday a law creating an audiovisual media workers syndicate for the first time after Egypt's parliament approved the 89 article legislation in December. The new syndicate will be tasked with defending its members, improving their working conditions, and drafting a code of ethics for all those who work in the audiovisual media field. The ratified law stipulates that those working in audiovisual media must not violate people's privacy or incite violence, and must cite sources for news, respect freedom and expressions and individuals' right to rebuttal, honor public morals, and promote community concerns. Of course, it's an important step. It's a long-awaited step. People are working in the media needed this syndicate very much. How do you think of such a step?
I think most of the people actually overrate the importance of having a syndicate, not only for this sector, but also in the other different sectors. I think each sector is capable of handling their own problem themselves. For example, talking about having a code of ethics. I mean, the press syndicate is supposed to be having a code of ethics as well, but we see that many newspapers and many journalists are actually not acting accordingly to those code of ethics. I think the problem in Egypt related to the media sector, especially the television sector as well, is that it is extremely cheap and extremely affordable to open a TV channel. This means any businessman can just pay like 500,000 Egyptian pound or 1 million Egyptian pound and open a TV channel and say whatever he wants. And the problem is also the support they get from the advertising clients, for example. The advertising clients actually in Egypt, they don't really care about the content and the quality of the content.
They care about business.
They care about reaching the masses, and it doesn't depend actually if you are supporting a program which is educating the people or just making the people become more silly, actually. If you look at the most, I don't want to call them successful TV shows, but actually the most widespread or the most seen TV shows, for example, or the TV shows which receive the highest sponsorship budgets and advertising budgets are in many cases the silliest TV shows we have on the different TV channels. So I think the problem will not be solved with a syndicate. Definitely, it's going to help the people working in this sector. We know that most of the syndicates make cooperations with hospitals and doctors and things like that, and offer kind of a medical support for their members, which is definitely something very good. On the other hand, there are other things which I personally cannot understand. I mean, for example, supporting them in getting summer houses or chalets in Ain Sokhna or Sahel or whatever. I don't think this is the work of a syndicate, and I think we need to, the problems which we have in the media sector need to be solved by the people themselves. The problem is if the owner of a TV channel, if he or the production manager, for example, if he's not willing to increase the quality and the level of the programs themselves and the quality also of the presenters. I mean, we have lots of presenters, you probably have seen them on many private channels, who really lack the minimum of skills you need to have in order to be a professional TV presenter, because we have so many people coming from so many different sectors. For example, journalists who suddenly became a TV presenter out of the blue because he is a relative of the TV channel owner of, or a relative of the producer, for example. So I think having a syndicate is not going to solve the problem. I think they need to solve the problems themselves.
Okay, moving to الأخبار اليوم, where we read Foreign Minister Sameh Shukri discussed on Tuesday with his Ethiopian counterpart, Minister Egyptian-Ethiopian bilateral relations, and congratulated him on becoming the country's top diplomat. According to a statement by the Egyptian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Shukri told the minister in a telephone call that they should arrange a meeting before the African summit in Addis Ababa by the end of the month. And to know more about this issue in the following report.
Shukri discussed on Tuesday with his Ethiopian counterpart, Mr. Egyptian-Ethiopian bilateral relations, and congratulated him on becoming the country's top diplomat. According to a statement by the Egyptian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Shukri told Gebeyo in a telephone call that they should arrange a meeting before the African summit.
Welcome back, and resuming the press review, and still we have joining us in the studio Mr. Mohamed Sheta, media expert. Mr. Mohamed, we were talking before the break about the relations between Egypt and Ethiopia, and the foreign minister were making talks with the minister of Ethiopia. Do you believe that Egypt should maintain good relations still with Ethiopia despite there is a major conflict on the Nile River?
Well, everyone is trying to maintain good relations with Ethiopia these days. Even the Saudi Arabian government is trying to do this, and of course the Israeli government has been doing this for quite some time. So it's definitely very crucial for the Egyptian government to keep on having a good relationship with the Ethiopian government until we see what is their real goal and what they really want to do regarding the Renaissance Dam and all the other regional and international aspects which involve the security and the stability of the region. So I think at that point it definitely makes sense to still keep a good relation. President Sadat probably would have acted in a different way maybe, but I think nowadays the circumstances are completely different. So we'll just have to see how things will develop, because of course we're not the only actors or stakeholders in this whole situation, but like I said before, many other regional, many other countries from the region are also trying to play or to have their part in the Ethiopian, how they call it, I mean, the African continent in general is becoming very attractive for lots of countries, like China, for example. They're investing heavily there. Israel is investing heavily.
The U.S. also as well.
The U.S. Is trying also to have a foot at least in the region. Russia's also trying to improve their position in the complete, not only in the African continent but also in the Middle East region. So definitely at that point we have no other choice than just keeping a good and maintaining a good relation with Ethiopia at that point.
Okay, and moving to الأخبار اليوم, where we read the Defense Minister Sidi Sobhi spoke on Tuesday with the several commanders from the military to discuss Egyptian efforts in contributing to the peace and stability of the Middle East and North African region. During a video conference, Sobhi spoke to several army officers and soldiers and congratulating some commanders on assuming new duties. Sobhi discussed the latest domestic and regional developments, focusing on efforts by the Egyptian army to preserve in assisting the unity of allied nations in coordination with the international institution. So do you have a comment on this?
Well, a very quick comment actually. Of course, this is just to encourage the people working in the armed forces and the commanders and keep their spirit high, of course. We don't see too many countries actually explaining and in detail what's going on in their armed forces, but definitely this is also to show a certain kind of strength and positivity to the people working inside the armed forces as well as the people, the Egyptian citizen in general.
Okay, and moving to المصري اليوم, where we read the Parliament Speaker Ali Abd al headed a delegation of lawmakers and visited the Egyptian Museum headquartered in Tahrir Square on Tuesday. The delegation inspected the ballrooms and different departments of the museum. Minister of Antiquities Khalid El Anani presented an explanations to the key artifacts and sections of the museum. Abd al delivered a message from the museum to the peoples around the world, saying that Egypt is safe and ready to receive tourists. How do you see such a move by the Parliament Speaker, and why now?
Well, actually, I don't think that the tourists, when they see Mr. Abd al delivering a message from the museum saying that Egypt is safe and ready to receive tourists, that this is going to be very convincing for the European tourists, for example. It's the same with those motorcycle trips and those bicycle trips going around the pyramids area in order to the so-called promoting tourism and show people that Egypt is safe. I mean, nobody's watching those motorcycle groups or bicycle groups or Mr. Abd al when he's going there and saying Egypt is safe. I mean, the European tourist has a completely different point of view when it comes to the places he wants to visit. We know that during the 90s, when we had the horrible attacks in Luxor, for example, that shortly after that, people, European and German tourists and also the Swiss tourists started flocking back into Egypt. So I think it's very easy to convince the European and international tourists to come to Egypt, but we just need to think out of the box and approach them in the correct way. I mean, we have to talk to them in the way they talk, and not with our way of talking. I mean, just going on air and saying Egypt is safe is not going to convince anyone. I mean, attracting touristic groups and touristic companies takes lots of effort. You need to be present at the international tourism exhibitions in Berlin, Milan, London, Dubai, for example, and you have to show them that you're giving them good service. I mean, Dubai became the #1 touristic destination in the Middle East because they offer an excellent service.
Egypt should take different procedures in order to attract tourism, and of course it needs a whole episode to
especially
speak about
the pyramids
that,
area needs to completely revamped and completely
Mr. Mohamed Sheta, media expert, thank you very much for joining us, and welcome once again to
Have a lovely day and Happy New Year again.
Thank you. And now we are moving to a quick break, so please stay tuned.